Hi, my name's Karen Welsh. I'm an artist living in Salisbury. I paint abstract and semi-abstract landscapes inspired by the Wiltshire landscape. I like to use colour, charcoal, lots of lines, and I think they're quite a unique but recognisable depiction of our landscape. I saw this idea online and tried it myself and have used it in part of my business to create these little pictures that I sell and are actually experiments for my larger paintings. They are made by using watercolour paper, which is masked up into equal size squares. In my case, they're made the size that fits my mounts. And basically, we use 2 reds, 1 blue, 1 yellow, black and white. So it's very, very simple. You don't need a lot of colours. In fact, it's amazing how many colours you can make from just those primary colours. These swatches here that I make, I just make swatches all the time. When I've got some paint on my palette, I'll make myself a swatch. Then I write on the back what colours I use to make these swatches. These swatches I use to choose the colours for landscapes and things that I might do. Because I work semi-abstract, my paintings aren't true to what you see. They're a feel. I'm trying to capture the essence of the landscape rather than what you see. I used to paint from life, so everything I painted was as you saw it. And I decided last August that I don't want to do that anymore. I want to start to abstract and start to feel the feeling. So anyway, these little paintings are real intuitive. There's no planning or anything. Anyway, you've got 2 ways you can do it. You can either mix your colours on your palette, or you can mix little pots, which is what I do, and I'm going to do this time. Mix little pots, making sure that you've got good tonal difference, so that, you know, they are distinctive from each other when you put them down. So, what I'm going to do is I've got a series of brushes. I've got some thin liner pens. I've got a rubber scraper that I think you use in pottery on ceramics. I've got a little bit of card for scraping if I want to, and I've got another type of metal scraper that is actually used in decorating. And I've got a pot of charcoal, and I've got my colours. The colours that I use are a medium red, a medium blue, well I use a cobalt blue, and a medium yellow, and a alizarin crimson, because that is quite a magic colour. You don't have to have it, and black and white. Anyway, let's get started. Right, I'm going to get a really, really big brush, and I think I'm going to go over, I'm going to actually spray the paper first, so that the first coat of colour that I put on is really sort of like blendy and watery. So I'm going to put on, I said I was going to use the pots, I'm actually not. I'm going to use some, because that's what I mean. With this sort of painting, it's all intuitive. It's what you feel you want to do. So I'm going to put on just some blue, really, really watered down onto the paper. And I'm just going to do any old masks. Okay, clean out your brush. Then I think I'm going to use my lovely orange colour with a bit of clean water. And do some marks. Looking all the time to see where you think they complement each other, but not worrying too much. They look lovely colours together. Orange and blue. Okay, I think it could do with a little bit of there. All the time I'm sort of looking at balance. Bit there. That's it, just a little bit. And what I do is I use a pot of water which is dirty water and one that is pretty clean, so that if you really are going to be using a light colour, you can make sure your brush is as clean as it can be. So now I'm going to, I think I'm going to go for a really dark colour now. Here we go, we've got a lovely dark jadey green. Again, I'm going to use a bit of water in it, so I'm mixing it on my palette. I'm going to use a bit of the dirty water because I don't want to write a bit more. Okay, we'll go down in this corner here. A bit more water. I think across the top there. Here. Across the top there. Okay, right. All the time I'm having a look and looking at the balance and looking at the colours. Clean it out in some clean water. I think now I'd like to use charcoal. And don't forget, this is all very wet. So we're going to see what happens when the charcoal goes onto the wet paint. So I'm going to do some marks. Across the whole thing. It needs a bit more up here. Can you see? I've got quite a lot going on down here. It needs a bit more up here. Every time I do these things, I still keep ending up with a landscape shape. You can see I've got a horizon here, and you can imagine that you're going backwards into the distance, and then I'm going down in the forward, bringing the perspective towards you. So I always end up doing that. But this one, I think I'm going to put a square here. Sort of a loose square, and I think that there. Okay, that's enough charcoal. Okay, having a little look at it. I wonder if this light yellow is going to work. I don't know, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry it a bit. Now we've achieved the first coat really, which is very watery and very transparent. So now we can start working on richer, denser colours. You know my colour swatches I was talking about earlier, I mean this isn't all of them, I've got loads and loads of them. Sometimes, you know, you can look at it and think, well, I know it needs something, but I'm not really sure what it needs. So I hold the swatches up against it, and you can see, like for example, that really clashes, that's horrible. This pink doesn't work. So you know, it helps you to think whether I need to go darker. Tonally, that is really pleasant. Nah, a bit too dead, that one. And we've got some orange, so we don't need more orange. So out of the swatches I've got here, I don't think any of them really are working. Apart from that one, maybe. So I won't bother getting any more swatches out. I think I'm going to try some of this light yellow. Right, now I'm going to put this on thicker. I've got a nice flat brush. And I'm going to try putting this on straight from the pot. So I'm going to go in the middle of this square. Now this one I think is going to end up being pretty abstract. This one I think is going to end up being more landscapey, so I've got that in mind when I'm doing that one. And this one, it could turn into a landscape, but let's see. I'm going to put a bit there and a bit there. Put it on nice and thick. Okay. And maybe a bit here. Get some real thick paint on there. Okay. It is working because it's bringing the painting forward, and you can see that the blue that you put under there is it's grinning through this yellow, which is always interesting. But I'm going to do something with that in a second. I'm going to put a bit here. Bit there. Okay, that will do on that one. Now, clean my brush in the dirty. And then give it a once in the cleaner water. I mean, you might find you need to clean your water quite regularly, because if your water's dirty, then your colours become muddy and messy, and you want sharp, vibrant, clean colours. So I'm going to use the magic wooden skewer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scratch through this that I've put here, that yellow. I could do the same here, and then it brings up the colour underneath and makes it very interesting. There we are, any old marks. I must admit, I always end up seeming to do just lines, but you can do anything you like. It's experimenting and playing, and sometimes you just have the most incredible mistakes that turn into wondrous new ways of doing things. So here we are. See, look at that, so interesting. Now I'm going to go over with this dark green, not watered down, here. And here. So that we've got a little bit of the watery, but we've made it thicker and stronger. See what I mean? You just do it as you go along. You don't know what you're going to do. It just all happens. Anyone can do this, and every single one is different, and everybody does it differently. I think this one needs a bit here, it needs a bit of balance here. It also takes away the hard edges. I don't like hard edges, so I like to get rid of them. So by just scraping the edges, you see how it's bringing up the colour underneath? And blending what's underneath with the strong colour on top. Now I think I'm going to take off the masking tape. Now you have to be very careful when you do this. I put this on here just to stop me from getting paint on the watercolour paper, so that it just kept the whole thing tidy. So we're going to take off this masking tape, trying to work out what it was you put on last, pulling it back on itself so it's right and flat back on itself, very, very slowly, don't rush. There, now we have 4 little paintings. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over with my liner and look to see if there's anywhere that I think that I could add line and shape. So I think I'm going to follow down that one there. trying not to go over the edge because you want to try and keep it all nice and tidy. And finding any shapes you like and sort of framing them, marking. All these lines give it movement. So, and then you're seeing natural shapes that you quite like, that you've not intentionally made but are there, which I think is the fun of this, because you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what's going to come out. Okay. So we got one there. This one, I think I am going to use the landscape idea. I spent a little bit more time looking at these after I'd finished and decided they really do need strengthening up a little bit more. I have a swatch, 2 swatches that I quite like the look of, that go with these very well. First of all, I think I'll go with the darker orange with this brush. So again, going on with thick paint because we're putting the top coats on, I'm going to put the orange in here. See how strong that is. That's better. I'll try a little bit of the lighter blue. Use this brush here. Now this is going to go here. Now I'm just instinctively adding colour where I straight away feel it needs to go, and that looks so much more interesting now than it did. There, that's got so much more activity, distance in there. You have to do any scratching very quickly because the paint dries really quickly. Acrylic paint, that's why I like using it. I used to be an oil painter. The paint just took so long to dry that I love acrylics now because I do like to work quite quickly. Now, last thing I think it needs is a little bit of white to add that highlight. So I'm going to go over the area that we had white, that we've scratched before, just with a bit of dense, strong white over the top. Lots and lots of paint. The texture gives it more interest too. So in your piece of work, you've got colour, texture, you've got colours grinning through, which are always interesting. Layers. Much happier with that. Well, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully see you again.